connecting you to people, places, and events across mid-Michigan. The CW46 presents Community Wide.
Welcome to Community Wide, everybody. I am Tom Eschen. Today, we're going to talk about mental health, depression, and suicide. It's a topic that many people may be uncomfortable with, but knowing about the warning signs can save lives. There are some remarkable people in our community who are working to help change and save those lives. Many coming from the sports world, as you know, I'm familiar with that, but we're going to introduce you to some of those people in the next half hour, and that includes Bethany Wiergowski. Her husband, Dennis, was a Bay City legend on the football field. He played at Purdue, went to the NFL, but suffered from depression in his final years and took his life 3 years ago this month. Bethany didn't see it coming, but has since worked to find out not only why, but how to prevent it from happening to somebody else.
You know, you exhaust the whys until there is no more whys. Right. The end result is always the same. You know, he took his life. Okay, now what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. You know, am I going to just let him die? And then I had learned nothing. Mm-hmm. You know?
Neither would anybody else.
And nobody else.
Go to the CW46.com to learn more about what she's doing to help people learn and what the Dennis Wiergowski Memorial Football Camp in Bay City is all about. Really a cool thing there. Well, just like Bethany, today we'll work to find out why. Former Detroit Lion Eric Hipple lost his son to suicide, and he and his family also suffered from depression. We speak to him about what he calls mental fitness. The documentary Do It for Daniel remembers the life of a high school football player who committed suicide. The couple who put it all together joins me in studio, and some local experts join me at the desk for a discussion on what we can all do to live healthier lives mentally. And as I mentioned, we'll begin with Eric Hipple just after the break, how he and his daughter dealt with their own depression and how he's working with young and old to foster mental healthy habits. And that's when Community Wide returns after this short break.
Community Wide on the CW46 continues.
Welcome back to this special edition of Community Wide. Today we're talking about a sensitive topic, but one that affects many families, suicide. According to the American Association of Suicidology, suicide was the second leading cause on death for young people in 2015. Every day, about 5,200 people in the U.S. attempt to take their life. And about 4 out of every 5 teens who attempt suicide, they have warning signs, which means if you know what to look for, you might be able to save someone's life by getting them help. 15-year-old Jeffrey Hipple took his own life on April 9th, the year 2000. The shock sent his father Eric and his younger sister Tara into battles with their own depression. We sat down with Eric and Tara to look back on that time and talk about what they've done since then to recover and rebuild their lives.
Well, you know, back right after Jeff's death, you're numb, and I mean, for me to go back in that spot right now and think about that, it's almost unfathomable to go back into that mindset because it's just so hard to comprehend and also very painful. But it also was the impetus of a whole, shift, change, reinvention, and everything else because I didn't want anybody else to have to go through that.
How much did you know about all that before it happened?
Zero. Absolutely zero. Had I known some of the stuff I know today, preventively speaking, it would have been a whole other story.
Yeah. Tara, what do you think you've learned about yourself in that time?
Oh, wow. I was experiencing my own depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress. There was a moment where I was home alone and I was hurting myself and I couldn't feel anything. So that was really the turning point to where I had 2 of my really good friends come over and they saw my cuts and they told me, if you don't tell your parents, then we will, and we'll tell them tonight. So telling my parents and everything, that was the big turning point.
Yeah. What was that conversation like?
This happened once, it can't happen again.
Yeah.
You just got to be open, and just be aware and not be afraid to ask questions and act and challenge. So what is going on? You know what I mean? It's like,
for me, at least, it was I don't want to hurt. I don't want to take them back to a painful spot, and I don't want to hurt them.
Do you think it's bigger than we realize?
Part of what I do now at the Eisenhower Center, which is we treat veterans and also former players, and I get this from every single one of them after they've gone through like the 30-day treatment. Every single one of them says this, man. Everybody should be going through this.
to go and get help before you crash and burn, because it's maintaining. You're maintaining yourself.
Oh, yeah. It's a maintenance level.
How do you know that, though? How do you know you're about to crash and burn? Is there something you tell people to say, this is kind of the steps? It seems like it's hard to realize that's going on.
I think the idea is if we strive for mental wellness, right, then we eliminate as much as possible those things that are going to make us crash and burn. It doesn't mean that things don't happen to us, they do.
Yes.
But the way we handle them, the way we adjust to them, the way we maintain ourselves.
You can suffer a huge tragedy, but you really can come back through it and be resilient and help others.
You'll want to check out Tara's Facebook group, Living Life on the Offense, a place which fosters the concept of mental fitness with education and awareness. The post covering everything from Mariah Carey to Carrie Fisher to the NFL. Definitely something you can use on an everyday basis there. Eric works at the University of Michigan Eisenhower Center, as he mentioned, as an outreach specialist, and often talks also with high school kids about mental health too. We stopped by a class at Grand Blanc High School tailored toward this topic. Here's a look inside that program.
Which is just recognize choices. That's so easy to say, right? It seems like a really easy thing to do. Recognize choices, right?
Like, you have to make your own choices. You have to realize everything you do is a choice. And that's a really weird, revelation to have.
Hey, I remember I was running low on gas, and I was like, I'll get gas in the morning, and I'll have to get up way earlier the next morning. I made that decision. Yeah.
And I gotta live with it.
Yeah.
Especially in our society, we're so connected these days that it's really good for us to know how to handle the issues in life and how to better ourselves.
Interesting to see just smiling at somebody that you barely even know and making conversation just from something little.
That connection is pretty cool.
I think she's just, I don't know, kind of scared a little bit to open up to people.
Yeah.
After doing this whole thing, it's been really easy. I definitely talk to people that who never would have.
Love, understanding.
I'm okay with myself and I can talk to people, but other people might not be able to do that. You have to really understand that other people can't do that. Other people live different lives and have different skills and strengths.
Because we reinvent ourselves sometimes, and we need to reinvent ourselves sometimes so we don't get stuck in this collapse. We're able to move forward.
So cool to hear those kids talking about that. In that classroom, along with the kids, parent advocate Cynthia Duncanson, who started Luke Duncanson Legacy Memorial Foundation after her son Luke took his own life 2 years ago at the age of 14. So go to the CW46.com to see my conversation with Cynthia and what she's doing to help raise awareness, a way to remember Luke while helping our community at the same time. Well, next on Community Wide, we take a look at a Michigan documentary about a popular high school student who took his own life, and the family and friends who are now making sure people know there is help out there for anyone considering suicide. If you have a story idea you'd like to see here on Community Wide, send it to us. You can call our newsroom at 810-687-9600 or email us at news@thecw46.com. We'll be right back.
Community Wide on the CW46 continues.
Now, the National Alliance on Mental Health says 1 out of every 5 adults experience a mental health crisis at some point in their life. However, about 60% of adults who need it don't receive mental health services. And welcome back, everybody. What a story by Eric Hipple, and impressive to see how those kids are working on their own mental fitness, working to spread that message to their peers. And we now introduce Cammie and Michael Behrens, who are from Lapeer, but they're very struck by a story of a football player from Ishpeming, Daniel Osen, and wanted to tell his story. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Before we ask you about your own work, spreading the word about this, we're going to get a glimpse of what you put together on Daniel Osen. Here now are some excerpts on their documentary. Let's take a look.
Danny Olson, the senior quarterback, rolls left, under pressure, throws, and it's going to be batted away.
State championship game that we lost. It was literally the end of the world to Daniel.
That's hard to explain to people. That fragileness that was there when he looked so darn good.
Imagine my house is on fire. I have to get out.
On July 19th, 2012, my brother Daniel couldn't take the pain any longer and completed suicide.
He told me that Daniel committed suicide, and it was
I remember when we
one, and I saw Coach Olsen, and he fell to his knees, and I just started crying because Daniel always said that he wanted to win a championship for his dad, so.
When I remember looking up at the clock and it went from 1 to 0 and everything changed, everything just lifted, because it was Daniel's dream for me to win a state championship. It was my dream to win one. The kids wanted to win one for us.
And those are just a couple pieces of what is a very powerful film. There's so much more to it than that. They've won 3 out of 4 state titles since then. Cammie and Michael, my first question is you. Just what inspired you to make this documentary, guys?
We have friends and family that deal with depression. And I worked Daniel's game in 2010. And then I worked the game for Fox Sports Detroit in 2012. And I learned about their story. And I read the story online after that, and just something stuck with me that we got to tell the story. So I talked to Cammie about it, and we reached out to the Olsen family, and that's where our journey started.
Yeah, wow. What did you guys learn from all of this? What did you take away from after you've seen the finished product, which is now, obviously complete done?
Well, we've always said from day one that if we save one life and break even, that we'll be happy with all the work we've put into it. We've shown it now 4 or 5 times, and the emails that we get are outstanding. We're definitely helping people, and people are relating to it. And so we've already done the goal of saving at least one life.
And not only the people that are dealing with depression are relating to it, but people that don't deal with depression are relating to it.
They're understanding it better. If they had a family member, we've had so many people that before they see the film, they say, well, they didn't understand why someone felt that way. They didn't understand why somebody couldn't just wake up in the morning and feel better. And after seeing the film, it opens their eyes to what is really going on. Right. So we're trying to help other people understand what depression actually is also.
Yeah, and what struck me is a couple months ago, we showed it during one of our Friday night football broadcasts, because the Millington football team, they watched it as part of their preparation for a state semifinal game. What have you heard from, I guess, some of the kids? As you just were speaking about a little bit, what's been the reaction? You said you went up to the northern Michigan and showed it and to thousands of people, and it seems like everybody was really struck by it. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes, definitely. We had one girl in particular that watched it in Ishpeming, and she had felt this way her whole entire life and couldn't verbalize how she felt. And after her and her mom went to see the show, they had us sit down and a cry fest, and basically she explained to her mom, this is how I've always felt, and I've never been able to explain it to you. And her mom, I think, understood what was going on with her for the years prior, and now she's finally on meds and getting treatment.
Help and doing great.
How can people now see this, and how can they get involved from your standpoint?
Well, right now we're trying to get it in every high school and junior high in the state of Michigan and throughout the country. So it would be great if they wanted to go to our website. If they're at a high school that is, the superintendent, principal, whatever, we're starting a list right now and trying to get it. We're starting a 501c3 and getting it out into the schools. We're putting it in some film festivals, and eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to get it on like PBS or somewhere like that, and market the discs and be able to get the discs out too. So
how many people did you talk to for this? How many people did you go with?
26 or 27 interviews. Yeah, and the good thing about this film is, and one of my biggest fears was I didn't want it to be boring. And so far, everyone has said it's captivated them. But one of the biggest things we wanted to do is make sure that we teach people about depression and anxiety, but it's an exciting story you're learning about, so you don't even realize that you're being taught something while you're watching it.
Exactly, you're watching, you're just being enthralled by the story itself. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We appreciate it. You can see more about their story and obviously the documentary as well on our website. I hope a lot of people can see and learn from this as well. And our discussion will continue as the Saginaw Spirit are remembering the life of a player who took his life too soon. Ahead on Community Wide, how they are using Terry Trafford's memory to help bring attention to the help that's available for people who need mental health counseling. And as we go to break, here's a look at the common myths about suicide. If you think someone needs help, help them. Seek out assistance from a qualified mental health professional. We'll be right back.
Community-wide on the CW46 continues.
Well, here are some mental health facts as we return to community-wide here. The National Alliance on Mental Health talking about lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered individuals about 2 to 3 times more likely to attempt suicide rather than straight people. Interesting moment there. Welcome back to this important discussion we're having on mental health. And now we bring in a couple of guests. Craig Goslin, the president of the Saginaw Spirit, and Barb Smith, the founder of Survivors of Suicide in Saginaw. They join us live now. Now, Craig, we will start with you as former Spirit player. Terry Trafford, we know, took his own life back in 2014, and really a blow for your franchise. What have you done since then? How's that impacted your franchise, Craig?
Well, Tom, our franchise was completely devastated when we lost Terry Trafford to suicide. And as a franchise, as a league, we didn't know what to do. Thank God for Barb Smith. Barb Smith was around to advise us and to be there for us, to help us to get through a really very difficult time. Yeah. And I encourage your viewers to, if anybody is contemplating suicide or is around somebody who is contemplating those things, to reach out for help, to ask for help.
Yeah.
And because I wish that's what would happen with us, because it didn't happen with us, and we couldn't recognize those signs. But to answer your question, what we've done since, we didn't want Terry's death to go in vain. This was a good young man that had a mental health issue, and none of us recognized it. And we didn't know what to do. Barb gave us advice. We worked with the Canadian Mental Health Association, and we started a program called Talk Today, which after Terry Trafford. And Talk Today is a program, it's a comprehensive program, 3-hour safe talk program with our players, our billet families. Everybody throughout our league gets trained on Talk Today. Wow. And what it does, it helps us to recognize the signs in a loved one, a friend, somebody that may be considering suicide. And I tell you, it's been really, really well received by our players and by everybody in our league.
Yeah, that's so important too. And speaking maybe from an athlete's perspective too, it's so hard maybe to open up in a group like that, to a locker room, to your teammates, to your coach, no matter if it could be a locker room, it could just be in school, to your friends and family. Barb, if I'm feeling something as an athlete, what steps do I take to kind of open up to something like that?
That's a good question, and kind of going back to what Craig said, what they teach in the Safe Talk is the acronym to the talk is tell, ask, listen, keep safe. So tell the person that you recognize that something in them has changed. Ask them directly about their thoughts of suicide or the behavior, and then listen to what their hurts are. Kind of be a listener instead of a talker. And then the keep safe means to connect them with someone in the community that can keep them safe and to give them the help that they need to whatever the struggles they're having.
Yeah, and we saw Eric Hipple earlier in the program here, and you both have been with Eric and experienced him in the past. He's actually going to speak with you guys coming up here. We'll talk about that in a moment. You saw him in the classroom with those kids. It was such a cool conversation. I think it's a pretty rare one to have. What did you guys take away from that?
Well, I think it's just the idea of even men can struggle with, depression or suicidal thoughts. And I think for Eric to be a mentor and to show the kids that all people go through stress in life, people have challenges, but to be able to talk about it and not wait till someone is having the thoughts of suicide, but to maybe do maintenance on yourself to stay mentally well, mentally fit, just like we do physical fitness.
Yeah.
It's kind of the self-care and just to be aware of it in your own self, but also to the people around you.
Yeah. And Tom, cardiologist, if you have a heart issue, go to a cardiologist. Yeah. You have something wrong with your teeth, you go to see a dentist. And when you have something that's challenging mental health wise, there seems to be a stigma, like there's something wrong with getting help and getting support. There's nothing wrong with getting support. And you know what, if we can do anything, if you know somebody that has mental health concerns and issues, ask them, talk to them, ask them to reach out to somebody and ask for support and help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to ask for help. And just like if you got a tooth decay, let's get it fixed, right? And go to a specialist, get with somebody like Barb, or get with any mental health professional that can help get you through or a loved one through a tough time.
Yeah, something Barb said, and Eric too. Mental fitness is something that we should all practice, and that's something he said. Make it happen before the warning signs. Make yourself mentally healthy so that those warning signs don't happen. How do you think that impacts daily life?
Well, I tell you, with Terry Trafford, that's a great question, and certainly we were not trained on it. Like Terry lived with me and my wife, right, and we were with him every day.
Yeah.
We never saw any of these signs because we were not trained in Safe Talk. Now that I am trained in Safe Talk, what I've seen him, I can't say for sure. I think I may have, because I've been through the program 3 times, and I really encourage your viewers to look at the Safe Talk program and really get trained on it, because it's an outstanding program, and it helps you to look at this, be able to recognize the signs of somebody that may be contemplating suicide. And actually, I had an interesting story. Late last summer, I had a lady that reached out to me as an acquaintance of mine that asked me what she should do. She called me, asked me what she should do, and I said, simply reach out for help and talk. Ask somebody to have somebody to talk with you, and she did, and I know she's doing very well. But it kind of gets down to that: is you have to be able to ask for help.
Yeah. In addition to that, Barb, what are some other ways people can reach out? What are other some resources we have here locally?
Locally, there's your local community mental health, your family physician, local counseling agencies. Nationally, we have the 1-800-273-TALK and the text line, which is 741-741. Sent, but it really doesn't, it's just important that you recognize that something has changed within you, or it's someone that you care about, and to recognize it and ask the question and then refer them in the appropriate places. If it's alcohol, substance abuse, or if it's gambling issues, if it's depression, once you find out what the person hurts are, then you can help refer them to the appropriate place in your community.
Yeah, and Mental Health Night too. That's one of the places you can go, right? Coming up for the Saginaw Spirit. Tell me about that, Craig.
Absolutely, Tom. On January 28th, we're working with the McLaren Bay region and with Barb's group SOS. And we're having the Suicide Awareness at the Mental Health Night, and part of that we have a number of vendors that are coming in that are going to be tabling in our concourse and in the Blue Line Club, we call it. And you can come in and talk to those vendors, and there's going to be mental health professionals around too to be able to sit down and talk. But yeah, it's really a night where we help educate and create awareness to our community. About where you go and what you would do if you yourself or a loved one may be in need of mental health support.
And you will have Eric there too.
Eric will be there.
So you can see him in person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In the Blue Line Club before we have a full program there where Eric's going to be talking about his experience, and hopefully it's going to touch somebody's life to help them make a choice that's better than suicide.
Yeah, that's huge that you guys are doing it. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us today. We appreciate your time and your efforts. It's really made a really big difference for a lot of people. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, obviously they're doing so much to promote mental health in the region. So for more information about this, please go to our website at cw46.com and click that community-wide tab. You can find several stats, info, and ways you can help there right now. Well, that's the end of our program tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. The conversation doesn't stop here. There's so many ways to help raise awareness for this cause, not only for each other, but also for ourselves. Be sure to join us back here next Sunday.